Great. Welcome, everyone, to Carnegie. My name is Dan Baer. I'm the Senior Vice President for Policy Research here, and it's a pleasure to have you all with us today. It's nice to be able to do an evening event. I think we just got this space up and running in the last few months, and this is the first evening event I've gotten to do. So thank you for coming by after work, for those of you who are on your way home. It's a real thrill to be able to co-host tonight's event, which is the grand final of the Tech4Democracy Entrepreneurship Challenge on the margins of the second Summit for Democracy that the Biden administration launched with the first summit and is co-hosting themselves this year. We're really thrilled to have all of you with us and to have five great teams, five great entrepreneurs making pitches from 4 continents, and you'll get to see the judges in real time evaluate their pitches in a few moments. But before you do, one of the things that, when I was in the Obama administration, I was in the Human Rights Bureau as a Deputy Assistant Secretary, and one of the things that I worked on, including with some people in the room here tonight, was the ways in which new technologies were actually posing threats to democracy. And obviously those threats have become ever more real in our experience in the too many years, 12, 13 years since then. But one of the things that I love about this contest is that we're looking at the ways in which technology can help contribute to democracy and help advance democracy and advance people's participation in democracy around the world. And that's something that we should celebrate and lift up. And I'm looking forward to seeing the results of this competition tonight. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we're really thrilled to have Kemba Walden with us tonight, our acting national cyber director. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the American people every day, and obviously by indirectly on behalf of people who look after cybersecurity around the world because of the role that you play. And thank you also to IE University for co-hosting this event, for being here. And with that, I'd like to invite Irene Blasquez up to the stage from IE University, where she is the director of the Center for the Governance of Change. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of IE University, Madrid, Spain, it is my great pleasure to give you a very warm welcome to this grand finale of the Tech4Democracy Global Entrepreneurship Challenge on the sidelines of the second Summit for Democracy in Washington, D.C. Thank you to all of you for your support, whether you are joining us in person here at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace or following us live. I would like to extend a special thank you to Carnegie for partnering with IE University and hosting this final. And thank you to Dan Baer and the amazing team helping us. This competition has aimed to identify the most promising innovators around the world who are directing technological developments towards the collective good through the design and deployment of democracy-affirming technologies. After taking us to 5 continents, in Madrid, Bogotá, San Francisco, Delhi, and Cape Town, I can confidently say that Tech4Democracy is now a project known worldwide. This entrepreneurship challenge has also allowed us to keep the Summit for Democracy alive during the year of action in all latitudes and in all its broad meaning and significance. Our Tech Democracy initiative, led by IE University and developed in partnership with the US Department of State with the strategic support of Microsoft and other academic institutions, think tanks, organizations, and entities, is a vast and ambitious effort to harness the power of technology for social good. We have always been moved in this endeavor by the conviction that technologies are altering the balances of power, the conditions of prosperity and security, and the rights of the individual. We believe that with everyone's commitment and proper governance, technology can do so for the better. As an academic institution, we believe it is crucial to have a tech-literate civil society and to cultivate critical tech thinking among citizens. This is precisely one of the policy recommendations stemming from the report we are currently working on, Tech4Democracy, Fostering Democracy for Social Good, These recommendations will be released in the coming days. Other proposals revolve around fighting disinformation and polarization, closing the digital divide, or foster new technologies governance. Thank you for the terrific jury that will be assessing the startups, and to the competent companies that have flown from Chile, Ghana, India, or Spain. This is not the end of a journey, but for us, the beginning of a mission. Drawing inspiration from the wisdom of the Greek poet Cavaphis in his verses of Ithaca, we are reminded of the importance of the journey of Ulysses to the island in Homer's Odyssey. As you set out for Ithaca, keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you are destined for, but don't hurry the journey at all. Let us all strive to make the responsible management of technology and the advancement of democracy our Ithaca, and keep walking this path on a daily basis. It is an immense honor to partner with the US Department of State and receive the tremendous support of Microsoft. Thank you, Director Walden. Thank you, Emil Larsson. Thank you, Jordan Sdan, and Ginny Batans from Microsoft. And now it is my big honor to introduce Director Kemba Golden. The floor is all yours, Director.
My apologies for coming a few minutes late this evening. Thank you for your patience. Turns out Washington, D.C. traffic, even if coming from less than 2 miles away, is challenging at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But it's nice to be here tonight, and I want to start by thanking some of the people who made this possible. First, thanks to the team of IE University over the last year. IE and the State Department have organized Tech4Democracy events on 5 continents. It's really a privilege to speak at the end of such a long and impressive journey. And Irene, thank you for that lovely introduction. I truly appreciate it. Second, thank you to the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace for hosting this event. Your focus on international engagement and cooperation is so important. This is a perfect place to conclude the Global Entrepreneurship Challenge. And finally, thank you to all the teams, private sector partners, judges, and innovators who participated in these events. While the US government supports this challenge, all of this comes from you, not from us. From the ideas to the selection of winners, I'm inspired by your commitment to using technology to strengthen democracies. In 2021, President Biden hosted the first Summit for Democracy, calling on participants to work with us in a shared effort to set forth an affirmative agenda for democratic renewal, and you have all answered the call. This week, the US is focusing on advancing technology for democracy. It is incredible to think of how many people from around the world will be here to address this crucial issue over the next few days. It's also humbling to reckon with both the challenges and opportunities before us. As democracies, we seek to establish an affirmative vision of our digital future. Yet we know technologies are not inherently democracy-affirming or privacy-enhancing. Democracies around the world are facing new challenges from our digitally enabled world, from disinformation to surveillance of cyber intrusions. And so we must also consider the misuse of technology and rise of digital authoritarianism. There are investments we must also make to ensure the values we hold dear are embedded in emerging technologies by design at every stage in their development. This grand challenge is the epitome of how to solve hard problems with creative, entrepreneurial minds like all of yours. Recently, the Biden-Harris administration released the president's national cybersecurity strategy. When we first began drafting this strategy, we looked back at the decades of strategy and policy that came before us, and we're truly standing on the shoulders of giants today, with great work done by many who have come before us. But we did notice that decades of previous cyber strategies tend to fixate on threats, who was trying to hurt us and why they were so deeply invested in trying to hurt us. But in crafting the Biden-Harris administration strategy, we took to a different approach. Rather than focusing on the threats we needed to overcome, we started instead with what we wanted to accomplish and worked backwards. Cyberspace exists to help us achieve our goals, and so what are our goals? When the president released the strategy, he explained that cybersecurity is essential to the strength of our democracy and democratic institutions. He also wrote, quote, "We must ensure the internet remains open, free, global, interoperable, reliable, and secure, anchored in universal values that respect human rights and fundamental freedoms. Digital connectivity should be a tool that uplifts and empowers people everywhere, not one used for repression and coercion." These are the themes I want to touch on tonight. We must ensure that technologies work in service of, not against, our people. Sometimes we have treated cybersecurity as something that belongs in a basement with an IT department, wholly unconnected to big concepts like democracy and prosperity. But that's wrong. Securing ourselves against threats is not the only thing that matters when it comes to cyberspace. If that were the case, we'd simply tell everyone to turn off their computers. And since even our most basic home appliances have chips in them, that approach is off the table. We defend cyberspace not because it's some distant terrain on which we battle our adversaries. We defend cyberspace because it is interwoven into our very lives, because we want technology to empower us. If we build a secure and resilient cyber foundation, we can pursue our boldest goals with confidence, like an internet that strengthens our democracy. In this strategy, our ultimate goal is a digital ecosystem that is more inherently defensible, resilient, and aligned with our values. And what do I mean by that? So defensible, meaning that we've tipped the advantage from attackers to defenders by designing systems where security is baked in, not bolted on. Resilience, meaning that when defenses fail, and sometimes they will, the consequences are not catastrophic, and recovery is seamless and swift. Cyber incidents shouldn't have systemic real-world impacts. And finally, we cannot ignore the way that technology shapes and is shaped by the rest of society. Technology does not itself represent a value system. It carries with it the values of its creators and operators. Technology can bring great advancement, from groundbreaking vaccines to essential services for underserved. It can help labor groups organize and bring transparency to government, but it can also be used by anti-democratic forces to suppress or misinform. We have to actively define and assert our values and the way we build our digital world. This is why the Tech4Democracy Global Entrepreneurship Challenge is so important. It seeks to inspire and cultivate technologies that advance democratic values like transparency and accountability. So, I want to repeat my thanks to everyone who was involved. Our goal is to empower efforts like this, to secure the foundations so people can build amazing tools and platforms atop them. Now, I want to talk about cybersecurity and human rights, which are inextricably linked, but not in the way that many people think. We have long operated under the false pretense that security and human rights or privacy are in opposition, that increasingly one necessarily decreased the other. In cybersecurity, that's just not true. Measures that protect security advance human rights and provide additional privacy. Here's an example. If you're browsing the internet without any security, your data could be captured by a criminal trying to get your financial information, or by a repressive regime looking to identify dissidents or censor news. Securing your data can help you protect against both. Cybersecurity allows for people to safely organize, to access information, and in some cases to share news of authoritarian repression with the outside world. Cybersecurity can create safe spaces and communications challenges for persecuted minorities. Of course, we're not there yet. And some regimes are using technology as a way to repress their populations. In some places, technology that should empower individuals is instead being used by governments to conduct unjustified surveillance on a massive scale. Authoritarian regimes are using technology as a tool of control, monitoring their populations to find critics, hindering independent media, and more. It's a really hard problem to fix. As I said earlier, technology is value neutral. We have to build it in to align with our values. One particular challenge is that we didn't design the internet with security in mind, as we designed it a long time ago. The request for comment that defined the internet protocol we used today dates from 1981. I think I was 10 years old. That's outstanding. As a result, many of the technologies and protocols that underlie the internet lack appropriate security. And that's why one effort from our strategy that I'm really excited by is to secure the foundations of the internet. And by foundations of the internet, I mean things most people don't know about, like the domain name system and the border gateway protocol. But securing these would make a huge difference. And not only would everyday internet users be much safer, but securing these technologies could help combat oppressive government censorship around the world. This is because authoritarian regimes often exploit security weaknesses in common internet technologies in their attempts to censor information and curtail freedom of expression. Because there are vulnerabilities in the foundations, authoritarian regimes can act at scale, engaging in dragnet censorship or rerouting huge volumes of internet traffic. At times, countries seeking to censor information have even caused internet disruptions around the world. Fixing those weaknesses would improve internet security, resilience, and access for vulnerable users. There's a lot of work to be done to secure the foundations, and it's not work that governments can do alone. Democracies around the world, including the US, need to do more to implement these technologies on our systems, but the private sector will also play a key role. A lot of key technology and infrastructure is privately owned. So today, I'm proud to announce that the US government is focusing on technologies that would help combat authoritarian government censorship. This is a follow-up to the State Department's prior call to the private sector to advance democracy through countering the misuse and abuse of technology. This week, the State Department and my office, the Office of the National Cyber Director, are jointly releasing a call for democracy-affirming anti-censorship technologies. That document asks the private sector to help make key technologies both more secure and harder for repressive regimes to use. Together with the private sector, we can make advances across these technologies that would help people around the world, from everyday internet users and democracies to those struggling under repressive regimes. I really do believe that we can secure the foundations of the internet in ways that provide security benefits and also make it harder to use these technologies to repress. I'm optimistic about our ability to do so because I am inspired by all of the teams participating in this grand challenge. It is incredibly encouraging to see the way you are embedding democratic values in your visions to secure digital identity, promote inclusion, bolster our elections systems, and strengthen human rights efforts. I want to close by thanking you again for the opportunity to speak this evening. I am really impressed by what I've heard of the teams that will be competing this evening. I'm looking forward to hearing the teams' presentations and learning more about their solutions. Thank you.
Hey, the mic is working now. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Director, for your words. And let's get the competition started. My name is Carlos Luca-Etena. I'm the Executive Director at the Center for the Governance of Change at IE University. And I will be explaining very quickly how the competition will play out. I will introduce the startups. I will introduce the fantastic panel of juries that we have today. And as Irene mentioned, we have today with us the 5 winners of 5 continental competitions. So we have winners from Ghana in the African continent, from Chile in the South African continent, the United States in North America, Spain in Europe, and India in Asia Pacific. The competition will play out as follows. Each startup will have 5 minutes to do a pitch with a PowerPoint presentation, and then our fantastic panel of juries will have 5 minutes for a Q&A. The jury members will assess the startups in 5 criteria. They will evaluate them in their contribution to democracy, in the interest for investors, in their scalability, viability, the team as well, and basically they will be voting live. So if you see them on their mobile phones, please don't think they're busy with something else. They will put their grades on the system. So I would like to welcome our jury members. First of all, we have Alex Engler, who is a fellow in governance studies at the Center for Technology Innovation at Brookings. We have Emily Fry, the Director of Cyber Integration, Homeland Security Center at the Mitre Corporation. Thank you very much for being here. We have Alec Ross, who is an author and former Senior Advisor for Innovation to the US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. We have Sheil Tile, the founder and CEO of Amplo. And I hope we'll have shortly with us Lilian Corral, who is the head of technology and democracy at New America. She's also stuck in traffic, but she'll be here in a second. The startups we have today with us, we have Trustur from Ghana with Oswald Anonadaga, apologies. We have Neeraj Gudgutia from India, the founder of Right to Vote. We have Dario García de Viedma from City Beats in Spain. Miles McCain from Atlos, the winner of the North American competition. And last but not least, Mario Novoa from e-voting in Chile. We will now watch a very short video of introduction that will tell you more about these companies, and then we'll invite the first startup to come pitch. So thank you, everyone.
Technology is quickly altering our democracies, from the nature and distribution of power, to the way individual rights and freedoms are exercised or infringed upon, to how governments provide services to and for their people. At the first Summit for Democracy, IE University, in partnership with the United States Department of State, announced Tech4Democracy, a project that aims to identify and foster entrepreneurs building technologies that affirm democratic values at their core, and help democracies become more responsive and resilient to the technological change around them. For the last few months, IE University has been hosting startup competitions across the democratic world. This grand challenge has been scouting for the most promising innovations in domains such as leveraging data for policymaking, fighting disinformation, promoting responsible AI, government transparency, civic tech, and GovTech. Microsoft is the strategic supporter of this important initiative. More than 300 startups from 66 different countries have participated in this grand challenge. 5 of them have stood out as offering the greatest potential impact on democratic progress. CityBeats, a startup based in Spain, won the European competition. CityBeats uses artificial intelligence to transform citizens' real-time feedback into data-driven knowledge for policymakers. Their platform processes large quantities of unstructured data and turns it into actionable insights to help better understand the population's concerns in fields such as climate change, financial inclusion, natural disaster response, migration, social policy, and food security. In a world of infodemics, CityBeats helps policymakers make more informed decisions. In the South American competition, the winner was e-voting, a startup based in Chile. Atlos, a nonprofit based in the United States, won the North American competition. Atlos is a platform for visual investigations used by open-source conflict researchers at Bellingcat to collaboratively catalog and verify human rights violations in Ukraine. Eyewitness media is essential to accurate and timely journalism. With Atlos, journalists and human rights researchers can preserve a granular historic record of aggression and repression, adding vivid visual evidence to the public debate. In the Asia-Pacific competition, the winner was Right to Vote, a startup based in India. Finally, in the African Venture Day, the winner was Floodgates Limited. This startup from Ghana promotes security online and citizen inclusion through their solution, Trustur. Trustur is a digital identity and business services platform that provides users with a verifiable digital identity and simplifies access to government services, financial services, and others through mobile devices. These 5 promising startups will now benefit from support from Microsoft to accelerate the development of their democracy-affirming technologies and a mentoring program to consolidate their business and open up partnership opportunities. Tech4Democracy is proof that it is possible to leverage innovation to support and advance democratic values. Governments participating in the Summit for Democracy, working with the private sector and civil society, have the chance to move this agenda forward in the years to come. We hope you will all join us in this endeavor.
Okay, so let's get this going. I would like to invite on stage Oswald Anonadaga from Trustur, the solution that Floodgates has developed. The floor is yours, and good luck.
Hello, everyone. My name is Oswald. I am the founder and CEO of Floodgates, and our mission is to advance our world through digital solutions. I'm just waiting for my presentation to come up. Yeah. Thank you very much. Millions of people across the world are excluded from governance processes due to the centralization of government services. Digitalization appears to solve this problem, but there is a greater risk of the systems being untrustworthy due to their susceptibility to identity fraud, security breaches, and disinformation. Democracy is reliant on the trust of the people in the foundational pillars of our society. This means that any threat to the representation, access, and participation of the people is a threat to democracy. Our solution to this is Trustur, a borderless digital identity solution that connects individuals to businesses and government services. Trustur allows for the issuance and verification of digital ID credentials, secure authentication through biometrics, a digital forms marketplace providing access to thousands of forms from government services and business services, fast and accessible credit, discounts and credit from our partners. Why now? There has been a boost in digitalization recently, and this has created a massive need for online security and data protection services, as well as national and international digital ID programs going on across the world. Also, the emergence of technologies such as face and fingerprint recognition, blockchain and smart contracts, public key infrastructure, and machine learning and AI has allowed us to be able to create highly secure and verifiable systems that foster trust in our society. In terms of our market, marketsandmarkets.com places the digital identity market size at $27.9 billion and predicts that it will reach $90 billion by 2027. Our goal is to capture $5 billion of this by 2030 through government services, bank and financial services, telecom and technology, and healthcare services. Our commercial model covers both individuals and businesses. We charge 30 cents per form processed, 3% on approved credit, and we also charge a premium fee of $3 per month. For businesses, we charge $10 per admin per month for access to our portal, and enterprise fees from $30,000 ranging up to $500,000 and more. Our operating costs are less than $50,000 a year, and our estimated revenue for the next 3 years is $57 million, coming from forms, credits, and premium subscriptions. We are differentiated from our competition through our ecosystem approach to digital identity and business services. Comparing Trustur to YouVerify, Smile Identity, and My Identity Pass, we all offer KYC checks and authentication. However, Trustur goes ahead to provide an identity network, digital ID issuance, a forms marketplace, credit access, and access to discounts from our partners. We have come a long way from being incorporated in 2020 and commencing business. Through 2021, we developed our product and signed strategic partnerships. In 2022, we began proof of concept trials with government services and business services. 2023 marked our launch, and we currently have over 2,000 users in 14 countries, with 158 service providers being onboarded. We have the Trustur app available on iOS and Android. We have a web portal for businesses, and we provide API services for integration with existing software. Our strategic partnerships has given us a head start in the marketplace. One of these include the National Information Technology Agency of Ghana for authentication of government services. We also have LVS Africa, Stanbic Bank, ARB Apex Bank, a group of 146 rural and community banks, the Federation of African Law Students, which has over 30,000 members across Africa, Microsoft for Starters Founders Hub, and many more in progress. Our market strategy is to partner with government services and identity authorities, financial institutions, telecoms, and other services. We do direct business development and would add digital and traditional marketing. Based on our projections and strategy, we will hit the 100 million user mark in 5 years with over 10,000 users on our platform. We are a sharp and dedicated team of professionals coming together from backgrounds of computer science, business development, project management, logistics, law, and accounting. We have bootstrapped for the past 3 years and are looking to raise $2 million for operations, product, sales and marketing, hiring, and other services. Ladies and gentlemen, we must ensure the preservation and promotion of democracy in the digital age by building these principles directly into digital systems. Trustur will spur governments towards democratic values and stronger democracy by improving access to government services and other services, by cutting down the time for processing of applications and services from weeks to minutes. Trustur will also help to enforce anti-corruption and anti-exclusion rules, and finally, provide economic empowerment through access to business and financial services. Thank you very much. Can you please highlight what you refer to as a red team? So, yeah.
So, a group of people that are intentionally trying to hack or compromise the technology. You can't hear me? So, the question is about how do we know that the technology is secure? Have you had independent technical allies attack it? And how would you know? Have you taken steps to remedy whatever they found?
Yes. So in our partnership with government institutions like the National Information Technology Agency, we actually went through processes of review of the security apparatus of our system. And when we're running proof of concept trials with these services and with banking services, we are required to actually, as part of the banking regulations from the central bank, provide penetration testing results and a lot of other services and meet certain compliance requirements before we can connect to banks. And so we have done this, yes. Thank you.
Can you describe your process for user testing and accessibility, making sure people can actually get benefits access, and any evidence that it's faster or easier with your app?
Okay. Let me give an example. In Ghana, it takes about 6 hours for a user to open a bank account with any bank, with most banks. And this is because they have to get up, go to the bank, go and fill in forms, and submit information about utilities and a whole lot of things on paper. The bank has to go through a process of verifying this information and then finally open the account for the person. This could take between 6 hours. Sometimes it can take a day or two. Our system does this from the user's comfort, whether they are at home or they have traveled or they are overseas. So what we do is once a user joins Trustur, what they first do is verify their phone number, email address, they verify their home addresses. We also have the capacity to verify employers, their employers, if they are with certain employers that we are connected to. We are able to verify additional information and full KYC that is required by our central bank. And then once this information is all collated together, we can submit this directly to the bank. And through the tests that we have done with the financial institutions we are connected to, all of this can happen in less than 5 minutes. Yes.
I was struck. Hi there. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
I was struck by the fact that I think you said that it costs about $50,000 to operate. Can you talk a little bit about your operating costs and how you see them increasing, keeping up with the cost of things like cyber infrastructure as you grow to be a platform for 100 million users?
Okay, thank you very much. Because we've been bootstrapping, we've managed to keep our services to a minimum level. But we do have a lot of very experienced software engineers and other professionals working in a dedicated manner on our team. And hiring and cost of salaries is a large amount of that operating cost that we have. Previously, we also had a very large infrastructure cost, but since we moved to Microsoft for Startups, we've been able to cut that down because we have been able to benefit from the benefits that Microsoft has given us as well. And then thirdly is business development and running trials and then working with the users, because we built our solution to be particularly user-friendly by listening to them, listening to the various users. What do they want to access from the government? What kind of data do we need? We have connected to credit services, government services, employers. We have connected to all kinds of business services in the 3 years that we've been operating. And the work to get all these projects done in these various institutions is what cost us this much. Going forward, we believe that we will have to scale to other countries because we have users in other countries, but they use international services on our platform. They don't use local services on our platform. Our local services are currently within Ghana, and we would want to expand, look at business development, cybersecurity rules, regulatory rules that are there and in different countries, and be able to make sure that we meet all of these services and provide a wonderful experience for users and connect them to as many services as possible within their countries as well. So we anticipate our costs are going to rise, and this is why we are raising $2 million to be able to cover most of these costs to operate from a position where we can provide comfort to the users, security of users' data, amongst other things.
So my question is around go-to-market. I think what you're doing is really interesting. I think the fact that you're in 14 countries is exciting, but also a little nervous. Makes me a little nervous. So how are you thinking about where to start, which countries to go after first, which sectors to go after?
Okay, thank you very much. Government services is really important to us because we personally experience how difficult it is. In Africa, for example, most government institutions do not have digital services. And so to be able to access a government service, you need to travel to where the location and then access it. This makes it difficult for people who don't live within the capital to access the services at all. For people who even need to claim their social security benefits and pensions, at the end of the day, they need to travel from different parts of the country to come to the city, Accra, to be able to access these services. And so we look at the major pain points and the scale of those pain points. For a population of about 35 million people in Ghana, government services being provided to this population size is a huge pain point for many people. We've also looked at financial services and credit as well. In Ghana, we assess loans at 35 to 40%, and sometimes more per annum, which is a very huge number. Most of it is due to the lack of identity information and huge risk of giving out this credit. And so once we solved the problem of identity, we went quickly to solve the issue of assessing credit. Because once you've performed all of this verification, employment, your phone number, your addressing, and other information, it's easy for us to submit that to a credit institution on your behalf to allow for you to access credit from them. So this is the way in which we choose what problems we are solving and the kind of issues that we are dealing with as we scale. In terms of us going to 14 countries, we met with the Federation of African Law Students. That has over 30 members in about 33 countries. And they were looking for a solution that allows them to have their members in different countries. Africa has about 55 countries, to register in a singular manner, verify the identities of the people in the various countries where they live, and be able to collect all of their information in one place. And Trustur is the solution that managed to help them to do this and connect people from across the world with verifiable identity that was interoperable in all of these countries. And now, because of that, they are able to access these services. So working with institutions of this nature, and we are looking to work with the African Continental Free Trade Area and also the Free Movement of Persons Protocol, which is being ratified to allow people to use their credentials in one country, in other countries as well. We are working with these international organizations to be able to scale rapidly as well. So that's a bit about our strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well. Thanks very much. I would like to invite on stage Neeraj Gutgutia, the co-founder of Right to Vote, which is a mobile-based voting platform that allows organizations to create and manage elections using biometric information. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. I hope I am audible. Hi, I'm Neeraj Gutgutia, founder of Right to Vote. I'll just wait for the slide. Right to Vote is an online voting platform. And the mission we are working with, as the name suggests, is to ensure that no voter is denied his right to vote. Let's take the example of Indian national election 2019. Around 1 billion people were eligible to vote. Around $5 billion were spent on the election, around $5 per person. 11 million officials were deployed in election management. 1 million polling booths were created. Still 33% of the people were denied their right to vote. And national election is not the only election. There are 10 million plus elections happening in a country like India every year. This is across colleges, clubs, housing societies, associations, NGOs, unions, etc. The total market is more than $3 billion. The biggest problem with the current offline voting system is that a voter has to travel to the booth to vote. He has to stand in a queue and be physically present there to vote. With Right to Vote, a voter can vote. With our Right to Vote online voting system, a voter can vote from anywhere within seconds, directly from his mobile. This not only increases the voter turnout, but it substantially reduces the cost. The cost saving is minimum 90%, time saving 90%, human effort saving 99%, 100% security, full authentication, and result counting is automatic and instant. In our platform, we have 1,600 different combinations of election possible. We have 7 patents filed, and we have features like for security and authentication, we have Aadhaar-based authentication with biometrics like fingerprint, iris, and face scan. We have transparency features like audit trail and voter selfie. We can do complex elections like single transferable voting system, which is used in President of India election, Bar Council election, Lions Club election. And the best part is the platform is very easy to use. So even an illiterate can vote on our platform without any problem. Our platform has been tested, certified, and approved by Government of India. Ministry of Information Technology and Ministry of Corporate Affairs both have approved our platform. Coming to viability and scalability. In 21-22, we did 1,500 elections, and all these elections paid for and independently profitable. And all this we achieved with 0 ad spend. This year, we would be doing double that, around 3,000 elections. Our turnover in 21-22 was 150,000 USD, and net profit was 37,500 USD. This year, we would be doubling that. Our client list includes marquee clients like International Solar Alliance, which is an alliance of 160 countries, PwC, ENY, KPMG, Tata Group, Godrej Group, unions of Indian Oil, Air India, Lions Club, Rotary Club, etc. So why investors should be interested? First of all, India is the biggest democracy of the world. It's a big market with 1.4 billion people. The market size is more than $3 billion. We have experienced and pedigreed founders. It's the most feature-rich platform in the world, tested and certified by government. Already, clients are using it. The traction is there. And the best part is we are already PAT positive. We are looking to raise $4 million and offering 20% stake. The amount would be used for more team building, international certifications and patents, and for business development. I'm the founder and CEO. I have more than 20 years of experience working with companies like Reliance, ICICI Bank, and Hiranandani Group. Neha is our tech lead, who has worked with Oracle and iFlex on banking software. She's an expert in online transaction, authentication, and security, and that is what she has built into Right to Vote. We have a 12-people team, mostly techies, and 50% diversity. We have been accelerated by likes of Facebook, NASCOM, Village Capital, awarded by IIT Bombay, IIM Calcutta. We have been extensively covered by media. This is an equipment, a digital voting equipment that we created for Maharashtra State Election Commission with Aadhaar-based biometric authentication. This same instrument, and now we are offering to Eswatini government in Africa for their national elections. Before I conclude, one request for everybody in this room. Sri Lanka, as you know, Sri Lanka recently got bankrupt, and because of which they had to postpone their election. We have offered to do their election at 1/4 the cost. We can do the same for any country in the world. So if you want us to help your country government to reduce the cost and increase voter turnout, please connect us to the right people in the organization. Thank you.
So I'll start. Have you ever been, with the elections that you've helped conduct to this point, have you ever been the target of a cyber attack, and if so, how did you respond?
So that is always a challenge. For example, we did election for IIT Delhi Alumni Association. Now, IIT Delhi is one of our associations where a lot of techies, that means the best techies in the world are created in IIT Delhi, they say. So we had that challenge that people were targeting our platform, but we had 0 incidents. And as I mentioned, we do around 3,000 elections a year. We have never had a single incident where people have been able to hack into the platform.
And why is that?
Because we have kept it very secured. And at every layer, we have different security systems to ensure that nobody can get into.
And so in the 2020 presidential elections, amidst COVID, the United States government determined that cyber voting, platform like yours was insufficiently secure to hold a presidential election. So what technology or knowledge do you have that the United States government does not have?
See, I would not comment on what technology means. There's always a political reason also why people say that it can't be done online. See, there are stock exchanges which are operating online. There are banking systems that are operating online. If hacking was so easy, people would have hacked into stock market much earlier. So it's not that means there is an image created that the systems can be hacked easily. We are now we are willing to drive driverless cars. We are betting our life on technology. So we should not think that it can be easily hacked.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Accessibility in elections is also an issue here. If you build many security features like two-factor authentication, like facial analysis, or the things that require a smartphone, you could also prevent people from getting access. How have you ensured that while maintaining security, it's also easy to use and accessible in especially democratic elections?
Yeah, so I understand that is the issue. So as a first stage, the equipment we showed, we had created for Maharashtra State Election Commission, where we are providing those equipment in the booths. So people who are not able to vote directly from their mobile, they can come to the booth and vote, and there they are being provided all the biometric verification and all that. So it would be a gradual phase. The thing is that, for example, NRIs or overseas citizens, means there is a huge population which are not able to vote because they are living somewhere else. In India, we have around 25 million overseas citizens who are not able to vote. So it will start gradually. We'll first target these segments who are not able to vote, and slowly and steadily it will go to the 100% population.
If there's time for one more question, I just want to ask, one of the primary obstacles that we've seen around the globe to adopting an online approach to voting is that identity issues are not measured the same across country borders, and figuring out who is actually voting has been a longstanding problem with most of the platforms that we have scrutinized. I won't name names, but we've looked at most of the platforms that are on the market today.
Very valid point, and in that we have been lucky. I don't know how many of you are aware, India has created a system called Aadhaar, where the total 1.4 billion population has been properly documented with biometrics of finger, iris, and face scan. The whole data is online and it's being regularly used for banking and other purposes. So that's why we have been very lucky, and that's why India would be one of the leaders in online voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Niraj. I would like to invite on stage Dario Garcia Viedma, who is the product manager from CityBits, who won the European competition. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, Washington, D.C. My name is Dario Garcia de Viedma, and I will start by sharing a personal story. My first job 5 years ago, I was working for the London City Hall as a street interviewer. So picture me talking to people like, do you like this bench? Do you like this park? And as soon as they found out that I was working for the City Hall, they would grab me and tell me their whole lives, because these people needed to be heard. So after this, I built this dream that I wanted to make or work in a project that makes every single voice be heard. And that's why I'm working as a product manager at CityBits. Our mission is to help decision makers anticipate social change by structuring collective wisdom in real time. Because people are already talking. Actually, in the last few years, we have published more than 90% of the whole historical data. The problem is that 80% of this data is unstructured, meaning that it's impossible for the human eye to read it. And that's where our technology comes. We basically collect everything that's being published online, you name it, social media, digital forums, and we even run online and offline surveys to target other communities, and then we pass it through a natural language processing algorithm. What makes us special is that the users, so we are a SaaS, so license owners, are in 15 minutes, they are setting the training criteria for the AI so that it's displayed in a way that it's actionable and helps decision-making for them. So we already have a tool for democracy that has an impact in over 90 countries and 1.1 billion euros of budgets. So these institutions, you might be familiar here in DC, most of them, are already finding value and recommending us to each other as well. So all of us at CityBits are super proud of the impact we are having. For example, the Inter-American Development Bank is looking at what citizens in 26 countries of Latin America care about, what they need. They are evaluating the impact of public policy so that they can respond in real time. And actually, they won a $300 million grant because they had this capability for sustainable investment in the Amazon. Then we're also working with WHO and the World Bank since this pandemic started in identifying misinformation trends, also why people are not getting vaccinated. Is it because they don't want to, and then why? Is it because they cannot, and then what are the accessibility problems? And many other institutions are measuring the impact of their operations. So we think that when you are a tool to help institutions save lives or fundraise or measure their impact, you really have a very good product market fit. So we are already very profitable, and for 2024, we are expecting to be invoicing 7 million euros. Although in 2 years we're planning to multiply our revenue by 7, our cost increase will be very marginal because we've already done the massive investment of building the data infrastructure, the deployment to 90 countries, etc. So we will be increasing our gross margin of 80% even more. We here know that the logos that I showed before are kind of the early adopters, but everyone in the public sector will be needing to listen to people's voices, which is why the AI market for democracy will increase to 49 billion by 2028. The point that I want to make here is that the public sector will be super strict about ethical AI. They will be demanding the highest standard of transparency, diversity, and we also know that they will be legislating so that this is also the standard for the private sector, which is why we are obsessed with becoming the standard in human-centric AI. How are we doing this? Every customer is asking us for full transparency, so we are providing metrics of performance of every single model, from the most simple one to the most sophisticated one. And they are using this, like independent researchers are using this for their non-profit research. We are also working on bias detection models, especially applied to gender bias, age bias, rural versus urban. And in the European final, like 7 months ago, I was super proud to announce that we were going open source. And today, in the global final, I'm saying that we have an ethical AI community in which citizens and data scientists from everywhere in the world are working with our algorithms because they are so passionate about them, like us, to make them closer to their local communities in Lebanon, South Sudan, Jamaica, Pakistan, many, many countries. And we are also the first AI startup that is complying with the EU ethical, European Union, Artificial Intelligence Act. So talking of passion, we are a team of 30 city beaters between Barcelona and DC from 10 different nationalities. Like diversity is our greatest strength. We also, like I'm a political scientist, we have data scientists, software engineers, philosophers, mathematicians, and we are also super passionate and skilled. Many thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit about the first adopters and how you first began to focus on the ethical aspects of AI?
Yeah, of course. So at the beginning, we saw that there was not so much capability on using AI tools. So they were a bit reliant on consultancy, also because of their buying process. But then as soon as they started seeing the value, they started hiring analysts and including AI metrics into their decision making. And now they are buying SaaS, which is why we transitioned into a SaaS model that we are in currently. And how we got into AI, into ethical AI, it's because we saw that for startups like us, you really need to be a pioneering in this conversation. Otherwise, as soon as the market changes or the law changes, you will be left behind. So we saw that it was super important to pioneer and to build a community in this in order to keep in this market.
You touted yourself as an ethical AI company. Can you give an example of a time when something was generated which you determined was unethical and therefore repressed by the algorithm or by the humans behind the algorithm?
Well, we have an ethical code, and I'm super proud that all of us participated in building it. Even myself, when I was an intern 3 years ago, I even put my word into it. And so we don't sell to political parties, electoral parties, or law enforcement. So that side is already covered. And for the development institutions, we don't know exactly all the policy that they are taking with our tool, but we talk regularly to them and we understand their pain points, and we are aware that they are aligned with our vision of democracy.
So, I'm sorry, you're firewalled off from another part of the team that determines who and what is ethical?
No, all of us are aligned on what's ethical.
No, but who decides what is ethical and what is unethical?
That's a question for centuries. But in our company, in CityBeats, we had all got together like employees and agreed on where to sell and where not to sell.
So it's based on, so you're ethical because of who you sell to and who you don't sell to.
Well, that's one of the points. The other points is how we treat data. For example, like auditing data, we are open source, so we are fully transparent of how we do. So the things that I presented previously.
You talk about your go-to-market strategy a bit more. You mentioned you're focused mostly on development institutions, so where will you see the growth in the use of the product within those institutions, or who else? And then how many users do you currently have, and are you seeking to grow to?
Yeah, we currently know that we have a product market fit in multilateral institutions, and that's where we are planning to grow. But we are also doing market research and are already having early adopters within the private sector. So we are doing some tweaks to our product so that it also works to the private sector, who has a bit more flexible questions. They change their questions more often. So that's how we are planning on expanding to the private sector. And we know that we'll also get a lot of traction there. And regarding the users, I'm not too sure of the exact figure, but we have like 200, 300 licenses sold that are being used.
I'm curious, who are your main competitors?
Without saying names, we have two branches, social listening institutions, and they are very targeted towards marketing and looking at how people talk about a brand, and they don't have the machine learning models that we have to understand contextual knowledge. And from the other side, we have surveys that many institutions are still relying on, but obviously they are more time consuming, more expensive, and they offer a photo instead of a video of like public opinion.
Thank you, Dario. Next up, we have the winner of the North American competition. From the United States, we have Atlos. Welcome, Mike Smith-Millen. Thank you.
Anyone can post evidence of a war crime online. Last February, we watched on TikTok and Twitter as Russia mobilized and invaded Ukraine. In China, Russia, and everywhere without a free press, eyewitness media has become central to accurate and timely journalism because traditional on-the-ground reporting techniques can be unsafe. Today, visual journalism often starts out on social media platforms like Telegram, where citizens post eyewitness imagery. Then, journalists and investigators catalog and verify that media in spreadsheets, on Discord and Twitter, and even in Google Docs. And finally, they publish original reporting based on that media. The problem is that these tools were not built for visual investigations. Spreadsheets and other state-of-the-art tools simply don't scale to large projects with dozens of investigators and thousands of videos. These tools don't provide structure to large investigations. They don't provide space for deliberation, and they can't handle the unique safety constraints of highly graphic content. Enter Atlos, an open source platform purpose-built for ambitious, high-impact visual investigations. At its core, Atlos is a collaborative workspace for visual journalism. Ooh, that doesn't look great. I promise it looks very nice in person. We enforce process, we provide space for deliberation, and we implement industry-standard best practices around safety by default. Atlos empowers investigators to create an organized, easily searchable catalog of incidents. We help investigators structure data with attributes on every incident that describe what happened, where it happened, and when it happened. And in the background, we robustly archive all source material, so investigators never have to worry about losing crucial evidence. And while Atlos enforces process and structure, it also promotes deliberation in a way that Google Sheets never can. Every incident has a feed where researchers can leave comments, tag each other, and discuss the details of specific events. And when a researcher edits an incident's data, we track those changes in the feed, so the whole research team has a clear record of the investigative process. So how does Atlos compare to other tools used in the field? Well, while some products offer databases and others offer collaboration features, the Atlos platform integrates both. And with features like geospatial search and automatic media archival, Atlos really is the perfect tool for visual journalism. Atlos is a nonprofit. Our mission is to support groundbreaking visual journalism. And so to that end, we plan to offer a freemium model available to almost any investigator around the world. With this model, we hope to support an enthusiastic community of independent investigators already verifying media online. We also want to be a self-sustaining organization, and there's a lot of very important investigative work happening at larger teams. So we plan to we're piloting a subscription model for larger NGOs and newsrooms. And in the long term, we imagine a broad, almost Wikipedia-like commons of verified geolocated media. Online investigators are already creating a granular historical record one photo at a time, and we imagine Atlos as a home for this effort. This model already has traction. Bellingcat, the prolific open source journalism group, is actively using Atlos and paying for it. Our costs are also extremely low. We're very, very lucky to have pro bono legal support and product donations, but our costs would be less than $100,000 per year, even without that support. And our costs are so low in part because we are a very small and nimble team. It is just Noah pictured here and me. But we've had a big impact. Atlos powers vital investigations right now. For example, Atlos powers the largest public investigation into civilian harm in Ukraine by Bellingcat. And each of the blue dots you see here is a real confirmed geolocation of civilian harm on Atlos. Journalists, human rights investigators, and volunteers are creating a granular historical record of Russian aggression, Chinese repression, and so much more, adding vivid visual evidence to the public discourse. With Atlos, their work will scale. To quote Giancarlo Fiorella, a Bellingcat investigator, Atlos is a game changer. Thank you.
I'm wondering about deepfakes.
I'm really glad you asked. So this is an unsolved problem in the world of journalism and open source research. Aspirationally, I want to say that through the power of consensus and community building and norm building, that the open source investigative community will find a way to sort of systemically handle the question of deepfakes. There have been a number of high-profile incidents, many of which Bellingcat dealt with directly, where they were seeded with fraudulent or misleading information, and that is something that we actually build in first party to Atlos, so there's a very easy way to flag something as deceptive or misleading. But Atlos doesn't do that work for you, right? It's ultimately on the investigative community using the tool to do that. So I will not pretend that Atlos is a tool that will be able to solve deepfakes. That is not true, and that is not what we do. But I'm optimistic that by supporting the open source investigative community, we can sort of power the important and thoughtful work that others are doing in that area.
I think this sounds like a great product and certainly useful in its space, but I'm not seeing the game-changingness. It seems like an obviously incrementally better software, but can you describe a little more why it's like so, or why it's seen so dramatic as a dramatic improvement in the field?
Absolutely. So one of the big step changes that we've seen recently, and Bellingcat has really pioneered this model, is using a large team of investigators, often volunteers from around the world, to conduct these incredibly ambitious investigations. And that is just not something you can do by just throwing people into a Google Sheet, right? You have to have access controls. You have to have interventions around safety. I didn't talk about this very much, but one of the things we do on Atlos is we try and make it possible for investigators to sort of more safely handle highly graphic content, and we implement a number of safety interventions to that effect. And if you don't have that tooling in those systems, it's quite irresponsible to sort of unleash the internet on a spreadsheet of reported incidents of, say, civilian harm. And so what Atlos empowers Bellingcat to do is to actually take their really, really important work and pursue it at a scale that would otherwise be untenable. But I completely agree with your sentiment. Atlos is not some magic AI tool, right? We're solving a human problem through sort of thoughtful application of technology. And it turns out that this is actually, this process problem that you see in these large visual investigations is something that is solved by a web app.
Have you generated any interest from large media companies? I saw the Washington Post logo on your presentation there. Have you gotten an email from the Washington Post that says we want to learn more, or have you heard anything similar from any of the large technology platforms, a Facebook, a Twitter, or others?
So, great question. At this point, we have spoken with the visual investigations team at pretty much every major newsroom. Often many people in those teams. We're initially prioritizing working with the sort of open source community, so starting with Bellingcat. But we are absolutely planning on heading in that direction because it turns out that these large newsrooms have a lot of the same problems that these open source investigatory organizations have. Actually, the main thing that is holding us back right there is that we want to have a formal independent security audit before we start adopting organizations that may have different threat models than Bellingcat. Our approach to security is both technical and based around policy. We try to sort of thoughtfully communicate risk and the inherent risk involved in using all tools. And so one of the things that we need to do before we take on an organization that is potentially not handling open source data, unlike Bellingcat, is go through a formal independent security audit, have recurring red team exercises, and so on, and make sure that sort of our threat model and this level of security that we can provide accurately aligns with the needs of those organizations.
So the data, how is it being integrated into the platform? Is it by the investigators themselves? It's not actually, crawling and grabbing some of the eyewitness data that you talked about, right?
So this is a great question because it also points to our approach to copyright and legal liability, which is something we think a lot about. The core data, the attributes that I wish I could have shown you, but the PowerPoint, I think the saturation was a little high, so you didn't get to see the platform. That data is entered by the investigators through a sort of consensus-based process. We do a number of automated tasks specifically around media archival to ensure sort of robust preservation of that media, and we do that automatically. In the longer term, we want to take a number of steps to enhance that information by, for example, extracting features from the images and doing more complex indexing. But at right now, almost everything is either entered by investigators or is pulled by us into our archive and hashed without very much further analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. Okay, well, last but not least, I would like to invite Mario Novoa. Mario is the co-founder of e-voting in Chile. He provides electronic voting systems that use cryptography. So good luck, Mario.
So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mario Novoa. I'm the co-founder of eVoting. We're a startup that has already been used by 2.5 million people. And we founded the company because organizing elections and general meetings is complex, especially when you think about organizations such as associations, universities, union, or professional associations. And they face these problems frequently. In general, in terms of logistic, venue, printing ballots, counting them, it's out of focus for most of them, and it ends up with low turnout. That's why we develop a service for secure online participation. The secret sauce behind this is that we use applied cryptography to encrypt each ballot individually before logging so that we secure secrecy. We distribute decryption keys to the organization, and this model has already been approved and set as the standard for many regulators in Latin America. The way it's worked, it's a web-based platform, so you don't need to download any app. You can participate from any location. It's compliant, transparent, and guarantees secrecy. And it's really easy to use and with a full service for voters and organizations. This is actually the thing our customers love the most about us, as the governor of Bio states. And this is also the key reasons why we've been growing so much in the region. At this point, more than 1,000 organizations across Latin America have worked with us. They have trusted their processes with us, and this has fueled our growth. We have done more than 3,000 processes, and in those processes, we've multiplied our revenue by 7 times in the last 5 years. But this growth, it's mainly based on participation. The more we grow, more people can participate, and we've seen this again and again. People want to participate. And for that, I'll give you a few examples. A few years ago, Chilean people living abroad couldn't vote. So they organized and they asked us to run a symbolic presidential election. And the results of this were amazing. People voted from more than 110 countries. And with this president, new legislation passed, and they get the right to vote now. Another example with the Chilean National Association of Medical Doctors, they have almost tripled their turnout while voting with us. Or, for instance, during the social outbreaks in Chile a few years ago, we ran an online civic consultation alongside the National Mayor Association, where 1.2 million people voted for a new constitution. This led to a peace agreement that was reached a few weeks later, and in a way gave a democratic solution to the conflict. All of this is only possible because of the amazing team we have. It's led by Tomás Barros, computer science PhD, and the brain behind all our cryptography. José Miguel Piquer, our chairman, he's also a computer science PhD. He's the father of internet in Chile, and myself. I'm the salesman. I'm the youngest entrepreneurship professor at Universidad de Chile, and also we have the support of top investors. We've done 2 rounds of financing, and I have the support of several institutions. And to summarize, we're a secure solution for online voting. We use applied cryptography for this. We have a proven track record. More than 1,000 organizations have used our technology in 9 countries in the region. And we have an experienced and diverse team that's ready to execute on our vision to improve democracy one ballot at a time. Thank you very much. And sorry about the slides. It's not what we sent. Just to clarify.
I'm curious how you price.
Yes, it's a good question. So we do have several, let's say, business segments. For most of them, we priced based on projects. We do then for some, because most associations, for instance, votes only once every 2 years, let's say. So we do a project-based contract with them. Then we have recurring revenue with some of our customers, for instance, universities and investment funds. We do annual contracts with them, and we have recurring revenue on that side. And we charge, in general, based on the people that are able to vote. So let's say, giving the how big the organization is or the amount of people that are associated with it, we charge something between $1 to $5 per person.
I'll ask a question I asked previously to one of the other voting
Yes.
committees. Have you ever been cyber attacked? And if so, what happened?
Yeah, so we've been attacked both, let's say, ethically and not. We do yearly ethical hacking processes. We've done this with Dream Labs from Switzerland and with Hackmetrics, which is the one that do this for Mercado Libre in Latin America. We do that every year, so that's, let's say, it's the white-handed side. And we've also run several more political processes in which we've been attacked. People have tried to stole voters' information, for instance. That's quite common. We have a lot of technology put into us. We use, well, Amazon Web Service for starters, but then all the data we use is encrypted, and the keys to that are, we give them to the organization, so we don't have access to that. Also, all of the access from the security standpoint are managed through white lists of IPs to double factor of authentication. So we've been, I would say, unsuccessfully attacked several times trying to steal voter information or even trying to put us down with DDoS attacks.
I've got a question. Yeah, and this, of course, is off. Let me try that again. So now I've got a question. A lot of times we, in the dialogues I'm involved in, we will separate different kinds of elections.
Yes.
And it seems to me like you have a really robust market in like, the Association of Medical Doctors and HOAs. And we would categorize that very, very differently from an election that places officials in a governmental position. And I wonder how you think about that. Is that different for you? And would you be willing to really target the market outside of government officials, or are you really intentionally going after that government segment?
So it's a great question. It was actually, I could say, kind of fundamental to us. In what space should we be in? So in terms of competition, there's actually a few companies in the world that do official government elections online. Cytel, Smartmatic, Indra. We are outside that market on purpose, mainly because that sales cycle is too long, and it's depending on policymakers in a way. So for Chile to vote online, Congress needs to approve that. And we're not going to wait for that in that sense. And on the other hand, the private sector provides us with a volume of processes that we couldn't do in the public sector. So we're running around 600 to 700 processes a year at this point, and none of our customers represent more than 3% of our revenue. So it's a great revenue stream, and we really love these kind of customers, and we're not kind of planning to run official election in the short term. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to hear from all the innovations. I would like to invite to stage Jeannie Badains, Senior Director at the Democracy Forward Initiative of Microsoft, who will be giving closing remarks and handling the award. So, good luck.
Thank you. Well, this has been very inspirational. I fully realize that you are all eager, especially you all, to hear the results, and some of you might be eager to get to the reception. And so, as I heard Dan say earlier, no one ever got in trouble for giving a short speech in DC, so I will keep this really, really short. I lead the Democracy Forward program at Microsoft, and we're often asked, those of us who are on the team, why does Microsoft have a team that focuses on democracy? I think those in this room might actually understand that, but we're often asked that question, and it's always asked with a little bit of skepticism. You know, like, what are you trying to sell to democracies? Like, why is it that you do this? And there's sort of a simple refrain that we tend to say in response, which is, democracy is good for business. You know, we make the vast majority of our revenue from the world's democracies. We can depend on the rule of law when we're in democracies, and that's a lot harder when you're trying to build a market in a place where the rules can change on you any minute, or you can't depend on the governments of that country. And so, yes, we think that democracy is good for business. However, this morning, as part of the Summit for Democracy, some of us were at an event hosted by CSIS, where someone kind of flipped that in a way that I thought was really interesting, which is they said, yes, democracy is good for business, but can business be good for democracy? And what I heard today from all of you, and I recognize some of you are nonprofits, but it's a great reminder that business, in particular technology business, can really has an obligation to be good for democracy. And so I know at Microsoft, that's something that we focus on. Just this week, we've been working with USAID and Internews to announce a partnership around journalism. We've been doing some work with the Tech Accord around cyber mercenaries and essentially saying that we as technology companies have some principles in place when it comes to that space. And so we are doing our part, I think, to contribute to it. We're always open to feedback and suggestions, but mostly we're inspired by people like you who are foundationally considering the role of business, particularly technology, in forming and improving democracy. So just want to say thank you, congratulations, and are we ready? I mean, I can keep going. I got more material, but y'all tell me. 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes? I don't know that I have that. Okay, all right, we are ready. Okay, again, congratulations to everyone for all your hard work. The winner of this competition is e-voting. Wow.
Congratulations. Congrats.
Congratulations.
Great job.
There you go. One more round of applause. All right. Thank you all. Congratulations. Here, the envelope. There you go.
Congratulations. Thank you, everyone, for this fantastic competition. Thank you to all our partners, Department of State, Microsoft, all the jury members, the startups that have come from so far away. I think this is, as Irene said, the first of many. We want to continue to advance democracy through technology. And I have a comment. People on glass houses shouldn't throw stones, but I would like to see more women in the next competition. We had women throughout the competition. This has been the result of not being enough women in the STEM sector, in the tech sector, in the entrepreneurship sector. So I hope that next year we'll have more women. And I invite you all to participate in next year's Venture Days. And now I would like to invite you to go upstairs and enjoy the cocktail reception. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, let's enjoy.